Have you ever noticed how obsessed we are with the end of the world? I mean, from ancient myths to the latest blockbuster movie, we just can't get enough. But, these aren't just disaster flicks. They're actually like a window, a peek right into the soul of a culture. Today, we're going to dig into what our stories about the apocalypse really say about us. So let's just jump right in with the biggest question of all. What is the deal? Why this fascination? Why do we find stories about everything being completely destroyed so compelling? Is it just some morbid curiosity, or is there something deeper going on? To figure that out, we've got to understand the blueprint for these stories. Okay, so there's actually a word for this, and it sounds a little academic, but stick with me. Eschatology. It's basically the study of end things. And pretty much every culture has its own version, right? A unique vision for how it all wraps up. And by comparing two of the most powerful ones, the Norse story of Ragnarok and the Christian story of Armageddon, we can actually uncover two totally different ways of seeing the entire universe. First up, let's head north, into the world of the Vikings. Their vision of the end is called Ragnarok, or the twilight of the gods. And the crucial thing to get here is that it's not a question of if it's going to happen, it's a question of when. The whole story is just soaked in this grim, but also kind of heroic sense of fate. The cast of characters here is just incredible. And what's so wild is that every single one of them knows their own fate. Odin, the king of the gods, he knows he's going to be eaten by a giant wolf. Thor knows he's going to kill his arch-enemy, this massive serpent, only to die from its venom seconds later. They're all just marching toward a doom that's already been written. And the path to that doom is laid out with brutal clarity. It all kicks off with something called the Fimbulwinter, 3 straight years of winter that causes society to completely collapse. That leads to this massive final battle where pretty much everyone dies. And to top it all off, a fire giant named Surt just burns the entire world before it sinks into the ocean. The end. Or is it? And this, right here, is the crucial twist in the whole Norse epic. From all that fire and water, a beautiful new world is born. A few gods and just 2 humans make it through to start everything all over again. So you see, the end wasn't the end. It was just one turn of a giant cosmic wheel. Now let's take that idea of a cycle and put it up against something completely different. Our second case study, the Christian apocalypse, Armageddon. This is not a story about an unavoidable fate. No, this is a story about a final, absolute moral reckoning. The players here are defined by which side they're on. You've got the ultimate force for good, led by Christ, facing off against the ultimate forces of evil, represented by the Antichrist and Satan. This isn't just a battle, it's the final showdown in a cosmic war between good and evil. And just like Ragnarok, this apocalypse has its terrifying warning signs. Seals being broken, trumpets heralding plagues. But here's the difference. These aren't just random chaotic events. They are all part of a very specific, unfolding divine plan that leads to one single epic conclusion. And this is where the 2 stories just go in completely opposite directions. After the final battle, there's a last judgment. Good wins, evil is defeated forever, and history doesn't restart. It gets perfected. A new heaven and a new earth are created, and the story comes to its absolute final close. So, now we get to the core of it all. These 2 stories, Ragnarok and Armageddon, they aren't just telling different tales of the end. They represent 2 fundamentally different ways of seeing the world, of understanding time, purpose, and even what it means to exist. The easiest way to picture it is like this. The Norse worldview is a circle. Things are born, they die, and they're reborn in a loop that just goes on and on. The Christian worldview, that's a line. It has a clear beginning, creation, and a clear final endpoint, the last judgment. And when you put them side by side, the differences just pop. For the Norse, the conflict is physical, a fight against a fate you can't change. For Christians, it's a moral war with eternal consequences. One story ends in renewal and another go-around, the other ends in absolute final judgment. And this quote just nails the difference in what each culture valued. In the Norse world, being a hero means charging into a fight you know you can't win. In the Christian world, heroism is about holding on to your faith because you've been promised that you will win in the end. The very idea of what makes a hero is completely different, all based on the shape of your timeline. But here's the thing, this circle versus line idea isn't just about Vikings and Christians. When you look around the world, you start seeing these same basic patterns pop up again and again, and they tell us so much about what different cultures held dear. Take the Aztec myth of the five suns, for instance. It's this epic, cyclical story where the world has already been wiped out and rebuilt 4 times, each time ending in some huge disaster. Our world? We're just living in the fifth version, in a potentially endless series.
It's a similar idea in Hindu cosmology with the great cycles of yugas, or ages. Right now, we're in what's called the Kali Yuga, which is a dark age of decline. It's supposed to end in destruction, but that destruction just cleans the slate for a brand new, perfect golden age to begin. The circle just keeps on turning.
And then, on the line side of things, you can look at a religion like ancient Zoroastrianism, which actually had a big influence on later faiths. Their end-time story, the Freshokareti, describes a one-time, final makeover of the universe, where all evil is wiped out for good and everything is made perfect forever. A straight line to a final, perfect ending. So this is what it all comes down to, really. Our stories about the end are like blueprints for our deepest values. Whether a culture sees time as a repeating circle or a one-way street, tells you almost everything you need to know about what they believe, what they fear, and what they hope for. It answers the question, is life about bravely facing a fate you can't change, or is it about fighting for a final moral victory? And that brings us right back to us, here and now. With all our modern stories about the end, climate collapse, nuclear war, AI taking over, what kind of apocalypse are we picturing? Is it a destructive end that might lead to some kind of rebirth? Or is it a final, absolute lights-out conclusion? The story we tell ourselves about the end might just be the most important story we're telling about who we are right now.